The past couple of years have felt very chaotic for many of us, myself included. We've seen a lot of uncertainty, a lot of kind of strife and conflict, and new technology developing at a very, very rapid pace. And it's kind of led to people believing one of two things. One is that we are headed toward this amazing, kind of bright future with lots of abundance and prosperity. And then there's another camp that believes this is a kind of a trap and we're headed towards this dark dystopian place that nobody really wants to be in unless you're part of this like extremely small group of uber wealthy people. So the question is, well, which is it? And how can you tell which of these futures is ahead? So let's break it down today. Hey, welcome to the show. Molly Elmore here. Today, we're going to talk about the future, specifically around the financial system and the innovations that we have seen kind of being developed and rolled out at a pretty accelerated rate. So if you could kind of go back in time, let's just say to like maybe January of 2020, before some major changes kind of affected all of us. And you said, oh yeah, by the way, in the next couple of years, we're going to see rapid growth of tools like AI, faster than you could have imagined being rolled out. We're going to see the mainstream discussion of tokenization and digital assets finally hit the mainstream marketplace. And we're going to see kind of an ongoing debate about like, what should we do with the dollar? And do we need to have new kind of systems in place to serve people? It seems like there's been a rapid acceleration in the discussion of those topics in the past few years, like relative to my entire lifetime. So I've spent quite a bit of time discussing this with other people and kind of forming my own beliefs. And so I'm going to share with you my viewpoint on this. And part of the whole point of my viewpoint is like, we don't really know what's coming. Like, unless you are a time traveler or extremely gifted with psychic sort of predictions, then we are all just trying to figure this out as we go along. And one thing that surprises me, because I do a lot of posting on Twitter, I still call it Twitter, X, whatever, is sometimes in the comments on things that I put out, people will state what they believe is happening with like absolute certainty. And I find that interesting because unless you are an insider or you have time traveled, can you really be that certain? And so if you aren't certain, like, what do you do about that so that this like anxiety about not knowing doesn't kind of get the better of you? So I'm going to break down a couple of things for you today that hopefully will help you navigate this process yourself. So the first thing is understand that our view of the world is completely subjective. And there is no really objective truth as to like the state of the world. And I'll give you some examples to back that up. So let's say you have two people who went to a concert. They went to the exact same concert in the same location. They heard the same music, but one of them kind of sat in one section and they happened to be with a group of people who all loved this artist and they could see very well. And this audio was great. Maybe they had like waitress service or something where they are. So they've got all these like snacks and drinks or whatever. And they had an absolutely amazing time at this concert. Then you have someone else who maybe had crappy seats and maybe their like seat was broken or there was like a leaky thing coming from the roof and the sound wasn't quite as crisp. And maybe there was some like annoying people around them who were distracting. And this person had a terrible experience at this concert. And so if you were to interview both of those people separately afterwards and ask them, like, was that a good concert? The answer you get would be very different because how we experience something is always going to be through a lens that is perceptions, because we see things in this world and our mind assigns meaning to them. We try to figure out, like, is that good? Is that bad? Was that fun? Was that not fun? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? You know, the mind is constantly assigning labels to events that happen, and they're all very subjective. So before you kind of fall into the trap of trying to decide, is the future going to be bright or dark? Know that it's going to be your own perception that defines that. There is no objective reality that tells you something is great or something is bad. It is how you perceive it. I mean, the same thing happens with food. Like, you know, I cook a lot. I could make a meal for 5 people and, you know, 2 of them are like, this was so delicious. And 2 of the people are like, you could have done better. And the same food, like it is our perception of how we, our perception of the material or the information, the data that we are consuming, and we define and decide what those labels are. So that's the first thing to know. This is a little bit of a spoiler for you, that you can choose between a bright, glorious future, or you can choose between a dark, dystopian one. It's really going to be your decision. And if you believe that you are kind of a victim that does not have control over that, you're being played a little bit. So first thing I would like to suggest is just deciding yourself that you want a bright, glorious future, and you kind of like rule out even the option that it's going to be dark and dystopian. The second thing, I had a little list of notes here, so bear with me, is when you can choose this reality, you have the ability with our mind and our imagination to sort of imagine, what does this best possible world look like? What does it feel like? What do I do there? What kind of person am I? I mean, there's a lot of books out there about visualization techniques and kind of manifesting your future. And if you've been doing that stuff, great, love it. If you are kind of dismissive of that, I would just, if you got some time, give it a shot, because here's how the mind works, is that if I believe something is true to the point where actually I know it's true, then I will make decisions that align with that. So let's go back to the financial system. If I believe that like all of these cool AI technologies that are coming out and all of these efficiencies via the blockchain and tokenization are going to be beneficial, if I believe that with certainty, then I start to make moves and decisions in my life that kind of create that reality. If I believe that all of this new technology is coming is here to like oppress me and like make me some kind of serf in a feudalistic world, then I'm going to make decisions that align with that future. When I was younger, there were these books that you could get called Choose Your Own Adventure. I looked for them a couple of years ago and I couldn't find them, so I don't know if they're still around, but bear with me. If you are familiar with this, I'm just going to kind of walk you through the idea. Is that they were these books where it was a written book, like all the words were typed up in this book before you bought it. But as you went through the book, you would end a chapter where you were given a list of choices. And it was like, go through the maze, or climb up a ladder, or, go backwards or something. And you would have to pick one of these choices. And depending on the choice you made, it would take you to another page in the book. And then you would go to this next page and you would read a story or whatever. And at the end of that little section, there would be another kind of set of choices. And then at the end of the book, you were given sort of the outcome. And the outcome sometimes was amazing. Sometimes it was bleak. Sometimes it was sort of middle of the road. But you saw that the outcome that you got was 100% a function of the choices that you made throughout the story. Now, the cool thing about these books is you could go back and start over and make different choices and see that your outcome would be different. I think these books were very powerful, like seriously, because every day we all make millions, maybe millions is a lot, lots, many, many, many choices. You decide what to eat, what to wear, you decide what to say, you decide where to go, you decide what to think about, you decide what you give your attention and your energy to. And all of those choices, they might seem insignificant as individual things, but when you add them up, it's called the compound effect. They really do have a significant impact on the reality that you experience. We saw this too with the sort of whole 2020 kind of experience that we went through. It was very transformative. Careers were changed, businesses had to close. I had to close 2 different businesses. It was very disruptive at the time. And looking back, things that I thought were very upsetting and difficult, in hindsight, were like blessings. Like, the stuff that I'm working on now is far more amazing than what my life would have been like if I had gotten the things that I thought I wanted back then. So the lesson for me has been to sort of focus on the macro, big picture goals that I want, and constantly reminding myself that I can dream bigger. Like, there is no limit on the amazing future that you can decide you want. And don't get too caught up in like whether it seems too hard or impossible, because one of the things that we've seen in the last couple of years is that things can change really quickly, and you wake up and you're in a completely different life in a completely different world. And what seems impossible today may very well be a reality tomorrow. if you're part of the XRP community, which I know some of you watch these videos are, like, we could wake up tomorrow and there could be like a flip the switch and $10,000 a token. Like, I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow, but it could. And if you are dismissive that any of those things could happen, you are going to block yourself from being on the trajectory to where that happens. And I know sometimes I get critics who say, well, I don't have control over what the price of this asset is, or whether there's going to be like a buyback or some type of thing that you might not necessarily be in control of or working on directly. And this is why manifesting, there's a couple of things that are important, and deciding whether or not you're going to wake up in a glorious future, like a new earth, what we refer to as the golden timeline, or this dark dystopian Terminator 3 thing. Like, be aware that your decisions could very much be a choose your own adventure where you end up in either one of those realities. And if you believe that some of these, all right, so what I was going to go back to is money. So like, if you set the goal of, I want this life that looks like these certain things, like here I am on a jet that I'm manifesting, that seems really hard to make a reality at this point, because I'm nowhere near owning a jet. But all I have to do is believe that enough, and all these decisions that I make will eventually take me on that trajectory. And if I believed it was impossible, then I'm going to block myself from even pursuing that path. So this is something to take into account, is that if you don't let yourself believe that this golden timeline, this amazing future is possible for you, you're not going to get there, because in the Choose Your Own Adventure book, you're going to make decisions that you feel like are more realistic, that end up taking you somewhere. And I think one thing that can happen with people is there is a desire to manifest money and desire to have wealth just for the sake of that. And the problem is that money is energy. Everything is energy. If you think about it, a value exchange between two parties is an exchange of energy of sorts. You know, when you have a job and you get paid for your time and your effort, that's energy. Like those are things you do, things you think, actions you take, and that energy is then exchanged for a money. And so it's all about this exchange of energy. And if you simply set the goal of like, I want all this money, manifesting doesn't really know what to do with that, because there is no sort of vision of what your life looks like and what it feels like and what you're doing. So I strongly suggest you set goals that are about the kind of person you want to be, the type of experiences you want to have, people you want to be around, and like what your life looks like. And don't make money the goal. Money will be the tool that brings that to reality. If you are in business and have ever been in the entrepreneurial world, you know that hopefully you've set sort of the vision for the company and kind of where you want to take things and problems that you want to solve for people, and kind of how you want to be perceived in the market. And then the revenue that you bring in is in support of that vision. So this is my long-winded answer of saying, if you are fixated on like the dollars in or whatever currency in your bank account, I would caution you to maybe set your vision to be more about how you feel in this new world. And you can head to this amazingly abundant place where, ironically, I think the timeline that I'm on, at some point, money is not even going to be the same thing that we think it is. Our money system has really messed a lot of us up, myself included. And our money is right now debt. And we get into this world of credit, and you can become kind of a slave to this debt system, especially if you have like student loans or mortgages or car loans or whatever that you are now obligated to repay, and you lose a lot of freedom in your life because of these debt obligations. So it's going to be kind of incredible when we make the switch that I believe is coming to asset-backed money, away from debt money. And it's going to really change how we think about money in a beautiful way, because there's so much scarcity in this world, with the majority of people on the planet who don't feel like they have enough money, and it creates this like obsession with getting more. And it kind of sucks, because there's a lot more amazing things to experience in life than just this like pursuit of money. And I've been around the block for a while, and I've gotten to know quite a few people in my day who actually have a tremendous amount of money and are very unhappy in their lives. And I also know quite a few amazingly happy, wonderfully peaceful and blissful people who don't really have a lot of money, because their priorities are on anything else. And I know that if you're in a situation where you feel like you don't have enough, this is going to sound maybe frustrating or even patronizing, and that's not my intent here at all. My goal here simply is, if you are trying to figure out like where this world is headed, for you to know that you have more control over that than you might realize. And it starts with what you want to have happen, and really becoming kind of obsessed with or fixated on that particular type of life, type of world. Who are the people you want to be around? What kind of person are you? How would you like people to describe you in this future life? What's important to you? What are your values? And really get clear on that stuff, and know that if you just make decisions day after day after day via the compound effect that align with that future, you're going to get there. It's a choose your own adventure book. But if you are cynical and distrustful and think that we're going to this terribly dark place and we're all going to live in, have these sort of CBDCs that you only can buy certain things, if you believe that to be true, you are going to make decisions that get you there. Because we have seen that there's a lot of different worlds on this planet. I mean, you have people right now who live these blissfully amazing lives. You have people who also live these very horribly sad, oppressive lives. And, how did that happen? Like, somebody along the way made a series of decisions that manifested that as reality. And you might be like, well, I was born into this. I don't really have a choice. Just be aware that that is a limiting belief, and that every day you make tons and tons of little choices, and those choices add up. So in terms of whether or not like a particular like blockchain is going to win, or what's the money system going to look like, those are kind of incidental details, in my opinion, about you deciding for yourself whether you want this future to be amazingly glorious and beautiful, or whether you want it to be dark and dystopian. The thing is, we have a lot of examples that prove this to be true. So the internet is probably the most revolutionary technology innovation in our lifetime. I mean, if you go back 20 years to how people had conversations, how they worked together, how they exchanged information, how communities and sort of interest groups were formed, it's like a completely different world than now. And there's a lot of amazingly beautiful things about what the internet has done. It has also had some bad things. Like, there's a lot of crime and trafficking and oppression and, dark things that exist because of the internet. So the internet, your view of whether it's a great thing or a terrible thing is completely subjective based on the perception that you have. And this next iteration of the world, which is kind of internet, whatever the next version number is, that has the blockchain, and now money's being moved this way, and we have smart contracts that enable some very cool things. There's also people who could do dark things with those. And if you believe that's where everyone is headed, then you're going to make decisions that manifest that as reality for you. However, you have the choice to say, you know what, I believe that I'm on the golden timeline, and that the world is going to be abundant and glorious, and amazing things are coming. And then every day you attract people who share that belief, and you have conversations with people that align with that belief, and you make friends with people who agree with that. And again, you got to be patient, but eventually you wake up and you're like, wow, the reality I live in is the one that I thought was going to happen. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you're familiar with that expression that we've all kind of heard for a long time. So this future financial system, this future world that is very technologically advanced, it can go both ways. And you get to choose. It is a choose your own adventure book. And each day you make a series of decisions that either take you one way or take you the other. And sometimes things like fear and anxiety and stress, they can get a grip on you, and they can pull you down to that darker timeline. So it's very important to be mindful of what you think about, what you give attention to, the types of information you consume. Be careful of the news. The news is never tasked with making you feel better and optimistic about things, unfortunately. So you might need to find different ways to get information that don't affect your state. But I really do believe that I'm headed towards this glorious, beautiful world because I've made that choice, and I'm fixated on it, and I dismiss things that kind of contradict that. Now, does this mean I kind of live in like a bubble and denial? No, not necessarily. I mean, I still have to pay bills and work and do things and go grocery shopping and, do all the whatever errands that we do in this reality. I'm just making the choice that I'm going to view all of these things with a positive, optimistic light, because you could take the same list of things that I do each day, and you could decide that those things suck and are annoying and frustrating, and have a very different way that you perceive them. So perception is reality. how you perceive events becomes truth, because there really isn't a whole lot of things that are objectively true. It is our lens that perceives something as being good or bad. And if you're very resistant to this message, I would just suggest maybe you sit on this and think about times where you've been somewhere with other people and they had a very different perception of what happened than you did. And the question is, well, who was right? You both were, and because however you perceived that event was true. And so as we experience more acceleration in a lot of these advancements with technology and the new financial system, and you can decide whether those things are amazing or whether they are dark and dystopian. So hopefully this helps you give a little bit of peace if you are worried about things. Like, you can make a choice to be focused on the abundant side. And if you are headed to the golden timeline, I'm very excited for you. I will see you there. All right, see you in the next video.